Adam posted 1:14.950 on his last lap, and will be pushing hard for an even lower time. Adam has a best lap time of 1:14.950.
The time clock can be a cruel mistress that is all too willing to show you your faults.
With just 3 minutes left before we move to qualification, there is not long left for these drivers to finish their preparations. Kevin just posted a 1:16.820 crossing start finish. Ryan Wilson posted 3:56.185 on his last lap, and will be pushing hard for an even lower time. Ryan Wilson has a best lap time of 1:15.478.
If there is still time on the clock, there is still time to improve.
Ryan Wilson has a best lap time of 1:15.478. Ryan just posted a 1:15.524 crossing start finish.
There is always more time to be found, but Wilson is not guaranteed to find it.
David Zahn posted 1:17.023 on his last lap, and will be pushing hard for an even lower time.
The time clock can be a cruel mistress that is all too willing to show you your faults.
With just 2 minutes left before we move to qualification, there is not long left for these drivers to finish their preparations.
David is not giving up and will be looking for every tenth.
It's a lovely day for racing here at Donington Park 2018 National as we watch these drivers warm up and get ready for the race. Feemster is getting to grips with the Shelby Cobra 351 in this practice session. Jake Feemster is on his first practice flying lap. Kevin Lekmansky has a best lap time of 1:16.249. Kevin Lekmansky has a best lap time of 1:16.249. Simon just posted a 1:16.835 crossing start finish.
If there is still time on the clock, there is still time to improve.
With just 0 minutes left before we move to qualification, there is not long left for these drivers to finish their preparations.
There is always more time to be found, but Simon is not guaranteed to find it.
Simon of the Desert posted 1:16.835 on his last lap, and will be pushing hard for an even lower time. Ryan Wilson has a best lap time of 1:15.350. Kevin just posted a 1:16.578 crossing start finish. Kevin Lekmanski has a best lap time of 1:16.249. Stefano Amode posted 1:15.987 on his last lap, and will be pushing hard for an even lower time. With just 1 minute left before we move to qualification, there is not long left for these drivers to finish their preparations. Stefano Amode has a best lap time of 1:15.987.
The time clock can be a cruel mistress that is all too willing to show you your faults.
Kevin Lekmanski has a best lap time of 1:16.249. Assad Extreming is on his practice out lap. Here we go, folks. The atmosphere is electric as the drivers prepare to unleash their machines at Donington Park 2018 National for the qualifying session.
Let's see who's got the speed and the skills to take the pole position.
You can feel the tension building. Jake Feemster is out on track and getting ready to push for his qualifying time. Jake Feemster is expertly commanding that car through Hollywood.
There's not much better than sitting near here and watching the cars speed by.
Jake Feemster is driving through Schwantz Curve. It looks like Kevin Lekmanski is getting ready to make his move. He's taking his time to warm up those tires and get everything just right. Kevin Lekmanski appears focused and prepared driving through Starkey Straight. That's the outlap done for Kevin Lekmanski. He'll now look to focus on his first flying lap. This is where the mental game comes into play. Narwhal is taking his time to prepare for his qualifying run. That Shelby Cobra 351 looks good driving through Craner curves. Narwhal is working his way through McLean's.
Spectators near here can smell the smoke wafting from nearby grills.
Jake Feemster is on his outlap. Jake Feemster crosses the start-finish line at the end of his outlap. Adam will be looking to use this first hot lap to set a solid time in the standings. It's all about precision and speed in qualifying, and Jake Feemster is nailing both.
It's certainly exciting to watch, but let's not forget, the goal is to secure a good starting position for the race.
Jake Feemster has improved by -0.16 up through Starkey's Brig. Jake Feemster is expertly commanding that car through Starkey's Strait. This is what it's all about. Adam is putting everything he's got into this qualifying session. Adam has just completed a lap in 1:15.303. Let's see if he can improve on that time further. There are just over 10 minutes left in this qualification session. Kevin Lekmansky has completed his first flying lap in 1:16.242. The pressure is on in this qualifying session, but Simon of the Desert is rising to the occasion.
Simon certainly is nailing this one. This is shaping up to be a great performance.
Simon of the Desert has just completed that lap in 1:16.713. His best lap so far is 1:16.713, putting him in P4. Stefano Amode is on his first flying lap. Stefano Amode has just completed a lap in 1:17.494. Let's see if he can improve on that time further. Adam will be happy, with a time good enough for first in this qualifying session.
Every fraction of a second counts. I'm sure he can find a little extra in there.
Simon of the Desert is driving through Coppice. Simon of the Desert will be happy, with a time good enough for fourth in this qualifying session. Stefano Amode has improved by -0.42. Stefano Amode will be happy, with a time good enough for fifth in this qualifying session. Narwhal has some work to do, as that 1:16.701 is only good enough for seventh.
That's not a bad time, but I am sure he can improve further on that.
David Zahn is now up -0.98. David Zahn has some work to do, as that 1:16.523 is only good enough for seventh.
There's still more time to be found, but Zahn may be looking for it in the wrong places.
Jake Feemster has some work to do as that 1:16.638 is only good enough for 8th.
That's not a bad time, but I am sure he can improve further on that.
Kevin Lekmansky has improved by -0.34. Kevin Lekmansky is keeping his head down through Coppice.
I have always loved this section of the track.
Kevin Lekmansky will be happy with a time good enough for 4th in this qualifying session.
It may be difficult for him to improve on that. Sometimes trying too hard makes you slower. It's far better to drive smooth and smart.
David Zahn will be happy with a time good enough for 5th in this qualifying session. Jake Feemster has some work to do as that 1:16.378 is only good enough for 6th.
There's still more time to be found, but Jake may be looking for it in the wrong places.
There are just over 5 minutes left in this qualification session. Kevin Lekmansky appears focused and prepared driving through Coppice. Kevin Lekmansky will be happy with a time good enough for 4th in this qualifying session.
Every fraction of a second counts. I'm sure he can find a little extra in there.
Kevin Lekmansky is looking relatively composed going through Hollywood. Narwhal has found an extra -0.21. Narwhal is expertly commanding that car through Starkey Strait. Simon of the Desert does not look to be improving on this lap. Ada, any thoughts on ways to improve?
Every driver needs something different, Hal. Some drivers excel when they push harder, while other drivers benefit more from relaxing and being in a flow state.
Narwhal is up -0.1. Narwhal is driving through Hollywood. Kevin Lekmansky is in the green by -0.1. Kevin Lekmansky is working his way through Old Hairpin. That Shelby Cobra 351 looks good driving through Coppice.
There's a great spot near here to kick back with a cold drink and enjoy the beauty of it all.
Ryan Wilson appears focused and prepared driving through Coppice.
Fans sitting near Coppice get some of the best views of the action.
Ryan Wilson will be happy, with a time good enough for second in this qualifying session.
It may be difficult for him to improve on that. Sometimes trying too hard makes you slower. It's far better to drive smooth and smart.
Ryan Wilson is expertly commanding that car through Hollywood. Ryan Wilson is looking relatively composed going through McLean's. Simon of the Desert has put in a great effort and currently holds fifth. With the session winding down, time is running out to unleash his full potential for a better starting position. Simon of the Desert will be happy, with a time good enough for fifth in this qualifying session. Simon of the Desert is driving through Hollywood.
Fuel, fumes, fans, and fights. Hollywood has it all.
Currently in second, Ryan Wilson has displayed promising speed during the qualifying session. The real test lies in whether he can convert this performance into a higher grid position.
Couldn't agree more, Hal. Wilson is positioned impressively in second. Now, he'll need to build on this foundation and strive for an even better race result.
Impressive work from Stefano Amodei, who has claimed ninth on the grid. Now, the focus is on maintaining his composure and push for an even better starting position.
You're absolutely right, Hal. Stefano's current position of ninth reflects his strong qualifying performance. Now, he'll need to strategize to capitalize on this starting position.
A solid performance from Narwhal, currently holding down P6. However, with the session coming to a close, he'll need to find that extra bit of speed to move up the grid.
Absolutely, Hal. Narwhal has put in a remarkable effort to secure sixth. The competition is fierce, and he'll need to stay focused to defend the position.
Narwhal has some work to do, as that 1:20.200 is only good enough for sixth.
That's not a bad time, but I am sure he can improve further on that.
Impressive display by Jake Feemster, currently sitting in P8. He's set a competitive time, but the question remains whether he can push even harder to secure a better starting position.
Absolutely, Hal. Feemster has shown great potential to secure eighth. It's now a matter of channeling that momentum into a strong performance during the race.
A mesmerizing display from Adam in this qualifying session. He's left everyone in awe with his speed and precision. Currently leading the pack and setting the standard, sending a clear message to his competitors.
You're absolutely right, Hal. Adam has been absolutely exceptional in this qualifying session. This performance is a testament to his skill and determination.
And there goes Ryan Wilson, currently in P2. He's shown great skill and consistency so far, but with a few minutes left, there's still a chance to improve on that time.
I couldn't agree more, Hal. Ryan has done a fantastic job to claim second. The challenge now is to convert this opportunity into a strong race result.
Ryan Wilson will be happy, with a time good enough for second in this qualifying session.
Every fraction of a second counts. I'm sure he can find a little extra in there.
You've joined us on a breezy day here at Donington Park 2018 National, as we're getting ready to get things underway. Adam will lead the way from pole position.
Adam is sure to be excited at his prospects for this race.
Starting on the front row gives Ryan Wilson the best possible chance at challenging for the lead.
He can't let that advantage go to waste. He will need to stay focused and keep his eyes on the prize.
Taking the third spot is Melero.
Melero will be ready to show what he's made of.
Kevin Lekmansky will look to make a splash from the fourth position on the starting grid,
putting that Shelby Cobra 351 into prime position for the race.
At fifth, we have the one and only Simon of the Desert.
I think we are all looking forward to seeing what Simon can do from here.
Narwhal is going to be starting from sixth.
A strong grid position, and he'll be expecting a solid result today.
David Zahn is placed in seventh.
An opportunity for some good points today, but the others aren't going to make it easy.
Sitting in eighth is Jake Feemster.
Feemster is going to show us something special, I'm sure of it.
On the ninth grid slot we have Stefano Amode. The starting signal has been given, and the drivers face the uncertainty of the first lap. With cars packed tightly together, the potential for spins or collisions is high.
The opening lap is often a hotbed of potential problems. The ability to steer clear of any mishaps will set the stage for a successful race.
The stewards will be hoping that there aren't too many incidents for them to pick over when the dust settles on this one. The drivers are jockeying for position. Melero will be looking to get off to a good start and consolidate his position. All the drivers will be trying to take advantage of the pack whilst they're still bunched up.
The drivers will be jostling for the best position. Hal. Some of them may not make it to the second lap in one piece.
As the tires come up to temp, their available grip is changing, and the drivers that manage this transition best are likely to make progress through the field. Stefano Amode will be studying the nearby drivers and looking for anything that could give them an advantage. It's brilliant to see such a full grid here today.
There are a few drivers with a point to prove, and a few with some grudges to bear. Let's hope they can keep it clean.
Coming into Wheatcroft Straight, the fight for third is heating up. Neither driver wants to be the first to blink. Breaking update. A great moment for Kevin Lekmansky, who has just gained a place and moved up the standings. This is what it's all about, folks. Melero is in hot pursuit of Kevin Lekmansky, who's just trying to stay ahead.
With the way Melero is stalking Lekmansky, you'd think he's trying to figure out what he had for breakfast this morning.
It's a thrilling pursuit as Simon of the Desert is right behind Melero, keeping the pressure on for fourth place. It's a steady race for Simon of the Desert so far, keeping it clean and maintaining focus.
It's a marathon, not a sprint. Simon just needs to bide his time and wait for the right opportunity.
It's a game of cat and mouse out there, with Jake Feemster trying to find the perfect opportunity to make a move on David Zahn. The gap is over a second, but every fraction counts. Look at that, Kevin Lekmanski is hot on the tail of Ryan Wilson.
One important aspect here is choosing the right braking points. Lekmanski needs to be precise to avoid overshooting and losing valuable time.
Mellero is looking for a way round Simon of the Desert.
If you don't push the boundaries, you will never know where they are.
The pursuit is on. David Zahn is closing the gap on Mellero, determined to claim P5. It's game on now. David Zahn has closed the gap to Mellero. It's now down to 0.3 seconds.
This is where the race gets really exciting. Both drivers will be pushing to the limit to gain the advantage.
This is where the race gets really interesting. Jake Feemster is closing in on David Zahn.
This is where every inch counts. Jake is pushing hard to close the gap on Zahn.
Hold the phone. That won't be ideal for Simon of the Desert.
Absolutely. Precision and control are key here. Knowing when to push and when to hold back can be the difference between winning and losing.
David Zahn is holding fifth, but Jake Feemster is right on his tail.
Feemster is certainly pushing all he can, but the gap might be too much. Unless Dave makes a mistake, it looks like he'll hold on to fifth.
The pressure is on as Jake Feemster tries to catch up to David Zahn. Jake Feemster could be on a charge here, Ada. He's just put in a quicker lap than David Zahn.
The question now is, can Zahn respond to that and pick up the pace? I'm not so sure.
I'm sure Mellero in fifth is starting to notice Jake Feemster is right on his tail, and is still closing the gap.
If Feemster gets any closer to the back of Mellero, then one of them is gonna need some lube if they want to take this further.
Jake Feemster has the pedal to the metal chasing Mellero.
And if you're enjoying the racing, please remember to like and subscribe.
The gap between Mellero and David Zahn is razor thin as they vie for fourth in this nail-biting contest.
This is where the mental game comes into play. Mellero and Dave both need to stay cool under pressure.
The delta between Narwhal in seventh and Jake Feemster remains over a second, but Narwhal is not letting up. He's pushing hard and looking for any opportunity to close that gap. There's 4 minutes left in this session to make that happen.
It's moments like these that make motorsports so exciting. We're witnessing a battle of skill and strategy between two great drivers, with Narwhal in seventh determined to catch up. But we know Feemster isn't just going to hand it to them on a plate. Narwhal is going to have to take it. It should be an interesting battle to watch as long as Narwhal can close that gap.
The battle for P4 is heating up as Mellero tries to catch David Zahn in P4. A great pass for Mellero as they pick off other drivers and move up the field. Meanwhile, David Zahn has lost ground.
Yes, but Mellero can't rest on his laurels, but needs to keep pushing to consolidate his position.
David Zahn seems to be putting the pressure on Mellero.
It looks like David has the speed to make a move. I just hope he can do it cleanly.
Jake Feemster is giving it his all chasing down David Zahn in P5. Wait. Fantastic move from Jake Feemster, who has just gained a position. This is where the skill and experience of the drivers really come into play. Kevin Lekmanski will need to stay focused and keep pushing, even when the gap seems insurmountable. It's not over until the checkered flag drops. Braking development. Oh dear, Kevin Lekmanski has dropped down to 6th.
This is where experience comes into play. Narwhal has been in this situation before and knows how to defend for position, but Kevin is hungry for success and won't give up easily.
Simon of the Desert is running 8th and trying to catch Mellero.
It's a game of strategy now as Simon hunts down Mellero. Yes, it's all about choosing the right moments to push and when to conserve energy, waiting for the perfect opportunity to strike.
Wait. The safety car is out on track, bringing the pack under control as we deal with some debris on the circuit.
This could be an opportunity for some drivers to pit ahead of the pack.
Of course, the safety car can really shake up the race order. Drivers need to stay alert and be ready to react as soon as we get the green light.
It's a tricky balance. They don't want to waste too much time behind the safety car, but they also don't want to burn out their tires too quickly trying to catch up.
Well, it looks like we have a bit of a traffic jam on the track.
It's like rush hour out there. I mean, I know we're in a race, but can't we all just get along?
You can wish all you want, but I don't think that's how racing works, Ada. These drivers are here to win, and they'll do whatever it takes to get ahead.
I guess you're right, but wouldn't it be great if they all just stopped for high fives and fist bumps?
We are under the safety car. It's all about finding that sweet spot and keeping your wits about you.
And while it's not ideal for the fans, there's something undeniably thrilling about seeing the safety car out on track. It adds an element of unpredictability and keeps everyone on the edge of their seats.
Let's hope we can get this debris cleared quickly and get back to the racing action. Breaking news, folks, and we're back. Safety car off, it's pedal to the metal time. The pressure is really on for Mellero in 7th as Kevin Lekmansky is closing in. This is where experience and skill really count. Hold that thought. A setback for Mellero, who has just been passed.
Yes, but there's still plenty of race left. Mellero needs to stay calm and focused, and make his move when the time is right. It's an intense battle between two skilled drivers, and Mellero in 7th is doing everything he can to keep Lekmansky in the rear-view mirror. The slightest mistake could cost him the position.
This is what separates the best from the rest. These drivers are demonstrating their racecraft, searching for any weakness to exploit. It's a true test of skill.
I couldn't agree more, Hal. The proximity of these cars is incredible. The precision and trust these drivers have in each other is truly remarkable.
David Zahn could be looking for a way up the inside of Stefano Amode.
He'll need to keep it on the road, or at the very least the rumble strips. The fastest way around is not usually in the grass. As the saying goes, too much grass will slow you down.
It's all eyes on this battle as Jake Feemster in first tries to hold off the challenge of Narwhal. It seems like Kevin Lekmansky is getting in range of David Zahn.
To achieve anything in this game, you must be prepared to dabble at the boundary of disaster.
Hold on a second. An impressive showing from Kevin Lekmansky, who has gained positions and left David Zahn in the dust. It's an intense battle for position as David Zahn tries to outmaneuver Stefano Amode. This is edge of your seat racing. Hold the phone. Oh dear, Kevin Lekmansky has had an incident.
The slightest mistake from either driver could lead to a meeting with the barriers, and nobody wants an impromptu autograph session with the wall.
Adam wants to close that gap with David Zahn.
There is no room for error in this battle.
Things are heating up as Narwhal closes in on Jake Feemster. The gap between them is down to practically nothing. Narwhal is trying his best, but can't seem to find the pace to keep up with Jake Feemster at the moment. This is where the skill and precision of the drivers really comes into play. Adam is chasing David Zahn in P4.
You can see that car bouncing around as it rides the curbs. It's a risky move that could end in disaster.
Every move counts now as Simon of the Desert works to reel in Adam and overtake for P5. The gap between Simon of the Desert and Adam is widening. It's now up to 0.6 seconds. It's a tight race with David Zahn in 4th just managing to stay ahead of Adam in 5 by a margin of 0.2 seconds.
Yeah, I really can't see him holding on to this place for much longer.
Oh, this is getting intense. Adam is just a few car lengths behind David Zahn. Ryan Wilson is pushing really hard, but as we know, pushing too hard can lead to other mistakes, like locking up the brakes or missing a shift. These drivers are walking a razor's edge between pushing the limits and making costly errors.
Absolutely. It's all about finding that sweet spot where you're pushing the car to its limits without crossing the line into reckless driving. That's where experience and skill come into play.
Looks like we might have a great battle starting here between Stefano Amode in 3rd and David Zahn. It's been tense with a gap of only 0.4 seconds.
Surely he's got enough in the tank to pull away. Gonna be interesting to watch this battle unfold.
This is wheel-to-wheel racing at its finest. The drivers are practically glued together as they fight for every inch of track. It's a battle you don't want to miss. Hold that thought. It's looking good for Adam, who has gained places and put some distance between themselves and David Zahn.
Definitely, but there's still a long way to go in this race, and anything can happen. Adam needs to keep driving with focus and intensity. Absolutely. How? The intensity of this battle is unmatched. These drivers are leaving no room for error in showcasing their exceptional racing skills.
It's a game of inches now as Simon of the Desert tails David Zahn closely, ready to capitalize on any mistake. 3 cars, 3 different racing strategies. One driver is defending, while the other 2 are relentlessly attacking. This is either going to be great or a disaster. Adam appears to be losing ground on David Zahn. He'll need to pick up the pace a bit heading into Redgate to get a good exit and gain some ground. Wait, it's a tale of 2 drivers right now, with Adam gaining places and David Zahn losing them.
Go, 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 that's what we want to see. Adam really needs to push in Redgate to gain some ground before Zahn drives off into the sunset.
The fans are on the edge of their seats. It doesn't get any closer than this.
Can Wilson close up enough for a pass? I don't see it personally.
Hold on to your hats, folks. Simon of the Desert is right on the heels of Ryan Wilson, and we're in for a wild ride. It's not looking good for Simon of the Desert, who is still behind Ryan Wilson, and the gap is increasing. It looks like Stefano Amodei is all over Adam going through Starkey's Straight, increasing the pressure and hoping for a mistake.
If Stefano get too close, he might end up taking the paint off.
Ryan Wilson is in 5th, and is being closely chased by David Zahn, who is just 0.1 seconds behind. He's pulling away. Ryan Wilson is increasing the gap to David Zahn.
It's clear that Wilson is dominating right now. He's making it very difficult for David to catch up.
Looks like Simon of the Desert is really pushing it to the limit. He's taking those curbs aggressively, but that can unsettle the car and cause handling issues.
Indeed, taking too much curb can upset the car's balance, leading to oversteer or understeer. It's all about maintaining that fine line between speed and control.
Things are heating up as Stefano Amodei tries to close the gap to Adam.
We'll have to wait to see if Stefano can use the draft to his advantage, or if the lack of downforce will hinder his progress.
Hold the phone. Looks like that's a mistake from Mellero. This could be costly. Ryan Wilson is on a mission, chasing Stefano Amodei, who's desperately trying to stay ahead. Ryan Wilson is looking for an opportunity to get around Stefano Amodei.
And Ryan is poised to capitalize on any mistake. It's just a matter of who cracks first.
It's a classic case of chasing down the car ahead for David Zahn, who is currently in P7. But Simon of the Desert is not making it easy, and the gap remains over a second. This will require some expert driving from David Zahn.
It's going to be tough for Dave, as Simon seems to have found his rhythm. But anything can happen in racing, and we've seen Dave pull off some impressive moves before. I'm excited to see if he can do it again.
The crowd is on its feet as Ryan Wilson chases down Stefano Amodei through Wheatcroft Straight.
It's a battle for position as Wilson tries to make a move on Stefano. This is what racing is all about.
The adrenaline is pumping as David Zahn gets within striking distance of Simon of the Desert in their race for 6th.
If things go wrong between Zahn and Simon, they could be exchanging more than just paint, like maybe a strongly worded post-race chat.
Hold on a moment. Now I may be wrong here, but I'm not sure that's the racing line. The race is really heating up. David Zahn is hunting down Simon of the Desert with everything he's got.
It's all about finding the perfect opportunity. Zahn needs to stay patient and wait for Simon to make a mistake.
This is where the race gets really interesting. Ryan Wilson is closing in on Stefano Amodei.
The gap between them is just over 0.3 seconds, which can feel like miles if you're trailing and not catching up.
The gap between Ryan Wilson and Stefano Amodei is growing. It's now up to 0.5 seconds.
This is a tough situation for Ryan. He'll need to find a way to pick up some speed and close that gap.
This is a thrilling battle as David Zahn edges closer to Simon of the Desert in their fight for P4. The tension is building as Mellero trails behind Ryan Wilson. The gap is slowly but surely decreasing, and the pressure is mounting. Ryan Wilson is pushing to maintain the lead, while Mellero is working to close in and challenge for the position. It seems like Mellero is pushing hard, currently on track to record his best lap so far this race. Look at that, David Zahn is hot on the tail of Simon of the Desert.
I would not be surprised to see him get this pass completed soon.
The race is heating up as Mellero in 9th closes in on Ryan Wilson. The gap is just over a second, and I'm sure Mellero is going to do everything possible to try and close the distance. He's not giving up without a fight. It looks like we might get a battle between Melero and Ryan Wilson. Narwhal is running 5th and trying to catch David Zahn. It's like watching two predators circling each other, waiting for the perfect moment to pounce. Hold that thought. It's a challenging situation for Melero. He's sandwiched between fierce competitors, Myers 0.1 seconds away and Stefano 0.1 seconds ahead. He'll need to stay sharp and find an opportunity to make a move.
You're right on the money, Hal. Melero is caught between two determined rivals, and the gaps to the cars ahead and behind add an extra layer of complexity. It's a delicate balance between defense and seeking opportunities. At this rate, Melero and Stefano are so close, they could share a cup of tea and a biscuit.
This is where the skill and precision of the drivers really comes into play. Stefano Amode is chasing Melero in P8.
This is not going to be an easy pass to make.
The pursuit is on. Adam is closing the gap on Jake Feemster, determined to claim P1. Great effort from Adam. His last lap was the best we have seen from him. The crowd is on the edge of their seats as Melero in 8th chases after Ryan Wilson. The delta is just over a second, and you can feel the tension in the air. Melero needs to find a way to close the gap. Good news for Melero, the gap to Ryan Wilson has decreased. It's now down to 0.3 seconds.
This is where the pressure really starts to build. A driver that stays calm and focused is more likely to come out on top.
These drivers are in a fierce battle, with Adam trying to outsmart and outmaneuver Jake Feemster. The gap is slowly closing, but time is running out. Situations like these often lead to a dramatic finish. It looks like Narwhal is pushing hard to catch up to David Zahn. That's not a small gap, but Narwhal has what it takes to challenge for the position. It's certainly not going to plan for Narwhal right now, who is struggling to keep up with David Zahn. Breaking news, folks. Tough break for Jake Feemster, who has just lost a position. This is a thrilling moment in the race, with Jake Feemster in first defending his position with everything he's got. But Adam is relentless, and the gap is less than 0.1 seconds. It's anyone's position at this point. Heartbreak for Jake Feemster, as they slip down the field.
Sucks to be them, Hal.
It's a game of cat and mouse out there, with Narwhal trying to find the perfect opportunity to make a move on David Zahn. The gap is over a second, but every fraction counts.
Indeed, the anticipation is high as Narwhal tries to reel in Zahn. But Zahn is not making it easy, maintaining a consistent pace. Narwhal needs to find a little extra speed to bring the fight to Zahn and move up the field.
The gap between Narwhal and David Zahn is getting smaller.
He'll be looking for a mistake to pounce on.
And we're back, where the drivers are showing us some incredible skills.
Indeed, Hal. It's always exciting to see these skilled drivers operating such fantastic machines on amazing tracks.
This is where the skill and experience of the drivers really come into play. Kevin Lekmansky will need to stay focused and keep pushing, even when the gap seems insurmountable. It's not over until the checkered flag drops. It looks like Jake Feemster is pulling away from Kevin Lekmansky. The gap is continuing to grow as they head through Craner curves. Every move counts now as Narwhal works to reel in David Zahn and overtake for P3.
The racing is getting tight between Narwhal and Zahn as they battle for P3.
Hold the phone, and Narwhal has just won the place from David Zahn.
No doubt, both drivers know that one mistake could cost them the position. It's a test of nerves as much as skill.
Breaking alert. I don't think that's the fastest way around Donington Park 2018 National.
Donington Park 2018 National is always a test for these drivers, and sometimes that's the way it goes.
This is going to be a nail-biter. David Zahn is defending for his life, but Melero is right there doing everything he can to force a mistake.
That's right, David is showing some great form and it looks like Melero won't be able to catch up, barring any mistakes.
The pressure is on as Melero tries to catch up to David Zahn. Melero is on a charge. His split time shows he's upped his pace.
Melero appears to be pushing, hopefully he can keep it together.
Pushing too hard can lead to mistakes, and we're seeing that now. That car is really unsettled from being pushed for every last bit of speed. Things are going according to plan for Ryan Wilson, who is currently 6th. Wait. Disappointing for Ryan Wilson, falling down the order to 7th. This is not looking good for Ryan Wilson. He's just lost 7th to David Zahn. At this point his strategy seems to be failing him. Hold on a second. Oh dear, Ryan Wilson has had an incident.
It's a real shame. Until this point in the race he'd been looking at a decent result. That's some bad luck for Ryan. He just couldn't hold on to it, but he can always regroup and get on the attack.
It's a classic case of chasing down the car ahead for Kevin Lekmanski, who is currently in P6. But Jake Feimster is not making it easy, and the gap remains over a second. This will require some expert driving from Kevin Lekmanski.
Absolutely. Lekmanski in 6th will need to be patient and work carefully to reduce that gap without overdriving it, as he can't afford to take unnecessary risks and that might lead to an off or damaging their car.
Hold on a second. What a move. Kevin Lekmanski has moved up to 5th. The tension is building as Mellero trails behind David Zahn. The gap is slowly but surely decreasing, and the pressure is mounting. David Zahn is pushing to maintain the lead, while Mellero is working to close in and challenge for the position.
It's a nail-biting race for sure, with both drivers showing incredible skill and determination. But Zahn is not going to give up his position easily. This is going to be a battle to the very end, with Mellero in P7 doing everything he can to catch up.
Mellero is trying his best, but can't seem to find the pace to keep up with David Zahn at the moment. The crowd is on the edge of their seats as Kevin Lekmanski in 5th chases after Jake Feimster. The delta is just over a second, and you can feel the tension in the air. Kevin Lekmanski needs to find a way to close the gap.
It's moments like these that make motorsports so exciting. We're witnessing a battle of skill and strategy between two great drivers, with Lekmanski in 5th determined to catch up. But we know Feimster isn't just going to hand it to them on a plate. Lekmanski is going to have to take it. It should be an interesting battle to watch as long as Lekmanski can close that gap.
Kevin Lekmanski is pushing hard and has reduced the gap to Jake Feimster to 0.2 seconds. Hold up. Breaking info. Superb driving from Mellero, who with that overtake has gained a position in the race. Mellero wants to find a way round David Zahn. Breaking development. Oh dear, Mellero has dropped down to 7th.
Definitely, but Mellero is a skilled driver, and has what it takes to fight back and regain that position. For sure, Hal. That's exactly what I would be doing here, as David is going to be aware of him riding his bumper.
A solid performance from David Zahn, who is holding down 6th. The race is heating up as Jake Feimster in 4th closes in on Narwhal. The gap is just over a second, and I'm sure Jake Feimster is going to do everything possible to try and close the distance. He's not giving up without a fight. It's like Adam has saved all his energy for this final stretch.
Adam is not leaving anything on the table.
Things are getting spicy now, as Simon of the Desert and Adam look to battle it out for first place. What a win! This is a historic moment for Simon of the Desert, who put on a masterclass in driving today. What a display of skill and precision.
You can see the sheer determination on Simon's face as that becomes a win for the history books. That's the mark of a true champion, folks.
Adam never gave up. He drove with heart and determination, ultimately securing a well-deserved second-place finish. What a race from Narwhal. He kept his cool and secured a well-earned 3rd place on the podium.
What a drive, well-deserved spot on the podium with that performance.
Jake Feimster, Kevin Lekmanski, David Zahn, and Mellero claimed 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th. Finishing 8th is Stefano Amode. There's a little bit of wind in the air today here at Donington Park 2018 National, as we're getting ready to get things underway.
The tension's building now. This is going to be another great race.
Starting from pole position is a great opportunity for Stefano Amodei to take control of the race.
The pressure's on now. Let's see if any of the other drivers can challenge for this spot at the start.
Mellero has a great opportunity starting on the front row.
He can't count his chickens before they've hatched. There is a long way to go.
Coming in at third, we have David Zahn.
Dave is in a good place to mount a good challenge come the first corner.
Securing the fourth place is Kevin Lekmansky.
He's going to have to be quick out of the blocks to keep up with the top performers.
As the drivers prepare to take off, Jake Feemster sits in fifth place on the starting grid.
Let's see what Jake can do.
The sixth position is occupied by Narwhal.
Like many others, Narwhal is starting the race on the Standards tire compound.
Adam will be looking to gain ground quickly starting from seventh on the grid.
He can't afford to be complacent. This is race day, after all.
Simon of the Desert is lining up eighth. In the middle of the pack, we have Ryan Wilson starting from the ninth position on the grid. And they're off. The race is now in motion. This is the moment when drivers must show their mettle and find the perfect line.
Maintaining a safe distance while still pushing for position is a delicate balance. Experience and composure will be vital in these opening moments.
As we watch the drivers fight it out in the first lap, I can already feel that this is going to be an epic race.
The race isn't won in the first turn, but there have been plenty that have ended there, Hal.
This is going to be one hell of a race, I can already feel it.
It's always intense racing here at Donington Park 2018 National. Hold on to your hats, folks.
The tensions are high, and no one will want to make a crucial mistake on the first lap.
I'm looking forward to this one, Hal. Maybe we'll see a return to form for Simon in this outing in Great Britain.
Races are often more about maintaining consistency than having outright pace, but it doesn't hurt to have a little good luck every now and then.
With this motley bunch of drivers, there is bound to be drama. I just hope we don't miss it.
Settling into a rhythm is going to be crucial here.
Let's hope everyone is able to stay focused for the challenge ahead.
It's a solid performance from Adam at the moment. He's holding his position and not getting too caught up in battles around him. Look at the way the drivers are hugging those corners, it's like they're on rails.
Speaking of rails, did you know that the first racetrack was built on a railway in 1896? I bet those drivers were chugging along.
All joking aside, I bet they were. Things have come a long way since then, haven't they?
Definitely. It's amazing to think about the technology that goes into these cars now. I mean, they have more computing power than some countries.
Kevin Lekmansky has the pedal to the metal chasing Mellero.
And if you're enjoying the racing, please remember to like and subscribe.
Narwhal is looking for a way round Ryan Wilson. Hold the phone. Big gains for Narwhal as they move up the field, leaving Ryan Wilson behind.
Yes, but Narwhal needs to keep pushing hard. This race is far from over, and anything can happen. Narwhal needs to stay focused and drive with skill and determination. It looks like Narwhal has the speed to make a move. I just hope he can do it cleanly.
These drivers are battling hard for this position, each one trying to outsmart and outmaneuver the other. Stefano Amodei seems to be putting the pressure on Melero.
I might have said this before, but dog, bone, you know the rest.
Breaking update. A setback for Stefano Amodei, who has just been passed.
Yes, but he can't give up. There's still plenty of time left in this race, and Stefano needs to stay focused and keep pushing.
We're watching David Zahn in fourth, and is currently being hounded by Jake Feemster with a gap of just 0.1 seconds. Jake Feemster is giving it his all chasing down David Zahn in P4.
Don't forget the role of aerodynamics. Feemster should use slipstreaming to his advantage and close the gap to David.
Ryan Wilson is on a mission, chasing Narwhal, who's desperately trying to stay ahead.
The gap between them is just over 0.4 seconds. Can Ryan close that gap and get back in range? I can't see it happening at this point.
Wow, it's a close race for fourth. David Zahn is barely ahead with Jake Feemster right on his tail. A gap of only 0.2 seconds. Things are heating up as Jake Feemster tries to close the gap to David Zahn.
Jake is looking to close the 0.3 second gap and make a pass.
Great driving from Jake Feemster, who has just gained a place and moved up to fourth. Stop the press. A great moment for Jake Feemster, who has just gained a place and moved up the standings.
That's what we like to see. Jake is really showing his class today. Yes, Feemster is driving with real focus and precision, and it's paying off.
Braking development. Fantastic move from Stefano Amodei, who has just gained a position. It seems like Stefano Amodei is getting in range of Simon of the Desert.
Rubbing's racing, but let's just hope they don't rub it too hard.
We've got an edge of your seat battle between Simon of the Desert in fourth and Stefano Amodei in 5, with just 0.2 seconds between them. Hold on a second. Simon of the Desert has just dropped the ball. Stefano Amodei didn't waste any time taking advantage of that. And we have the safety car out, which means the drivers need to be extra cautious now.
It's a real game changer, with drivers needing to adjust their strategies and try to find ways to gain an advantage.
It's also a bit of a break for the drivers, giving them a chance to catch their breath and regroup before the action kicks off again. It's a brilliant day for racing here at Donington Park 2018 National. I'm really enjoying this.
This race is truly epic. What a treat to be sat here witnessing this spectacle.
The safety car is out on the track and the drivers are slowing down to keep their positions.
This is where strategy comes into play. Do you pit now and risk losing track position, or do you stay out and hope for a quick end to the safety car period?
It's a tough call for the teams and drivers to make. The safety car is pulling into the pits, and we are moments away from going back to green flag racing. Hold on to your seats. Melero is placed first at the moment, and hoping to keep his distance ahead of Jake Feemster, who is 0.3 seconds behind.
It's not over yet. Feemster is right on Melero's tail, and if he can find just a little bit of extra speed, he might be able to make a move.
David Zahn is looking to take advantage of that slipstream being so close to Ryan Wilson. That's going to provide the extra speed to challenge for the position. Braking alert. A brilliant maneuver from Narwhal, who has just moved up the field. The intensity is off the charts as Narwhal hounds Ryan Wilson, both drivers pushing themselves to the absolute limit. Hold the phone. That won't be ideal for Ryan Wilson.
It looks like Narwhal wants to take a cheeky peek up the inside.
These drivers are in a fierce battle, with Jake Feemster trying to outsmart and outmaneuver Melero. The gap is slowly closing, the time is running out. Situations like these often lead to a dramatic finish. Braking development. Now I may be wrong here, but I'm not sure that's the racing line.
This is where experience comes into play. Melero has been in this situation before and knows how to defend for position, but Feemster is hungry for success and won't give up easily.
It's a game of cat and mouse out there, with Jake Feemster trying to find the perfect opportunity to make a move on Melero. The gap is over a second, but every fraction counts.
Indeed, the anticipation is high as Feimster tries to reel in Mellero. But Mellero is not making it easy, maintaining a consistent pace. Feimster needs to find a little extra speed to bring the fight to Mellero and move up the field.
It's game on now. Jake Feimster has closed the gap to Mellero. It's now down to 0.2 seconds. Stefano Amodei has a mountain to climb at the moment to close that gap with Kevin Lekmanski. I expect his only hope at this point is that Kevin makes an error.
Stefano certainly isn't going to be close enough to mount any kind of challenge soon unless it's down to a mistake from Kevin.
Stefano Amodei appears to be losing ground on Kevin Lekmanski. He'll need to pick up the pace a bit heading into Coppice to get a good exit and gain some ground. Wait. A tough moment for Stefano Amodei, who has just lost a place, now in 5th. It looks like Jake Feimster is pushing hard to catch up to Mellero. That's not a small gap, but Jake Feimster has what it takes to challenge for the position. Breaking news, folks. What a move. Jake Feimster has moved up to 2nd.
Amazing stuff. Focus and precision, what it's all about. That's right, Jake in 3rd knows to push it to the limit to catch up. But Mellero is no slouch, and he's going to be pushing just as hard.
This is where the skill and experience of the drivers really come into play. Simon of the Desert will need to stay focused and keep pushing, even when the gap seems insurmountable. It's not over until the checkered flag drops. It's not going to plan for Simon of the Desert, who is trailing behind Stefano Amodei and the gap is widening. He may not have an answer for this right now. Looks like Jake Feimster is really pushing it to the limit. He's taking those curbs aggressively, but that can unsettle the car and cause handling issues.
Indeed, taking too much curb can upset the car's balance, leading to oversteer or understeer. It's all about maintaining that fine line between speed and control. The gap between them is now just over 0.4 seconds.
This is where the race gets really interesting. Simon of the Desert is closing in on Stefano Amodei. It's a classic case of chasing down the car ahead for Jake Feimster, who is currently in P2. But Mellero is not making it easy, and the gap remains over a second. This will require some expert driving from Jake Feimster. Breaking update. Great driving from Jake Feimster, who has just gained a place and moved up to 1st.
Absolutely, Jake is really putting on a clinic out there, and he's making it look easy.
The gap between Mellero and Jake Feimster is not insurmountable, but it's going to take a mistake from Mellero to bring Jake Feimster into play. I'm sure Jake Feimster in 2nd is starting to notice Kevin Lekmanski is right on his tail and is still closing the gap.
You're right. Feimster in 2nd needs to stay cool under pressure and make every move count. But Lekmanski is a fierce competitor, and won't give up without a fight.
Kevin Lekmanski is pushing really hard, but as we know, pushing too hard can lead to other mistakes, like locking up the brakes or missing a shift. These drivers are walking a razor's edge between pushing the limits and making costly errors.
Absolutely. It's all about finding that sweet spot where you're pushing the car to its limits without crossing the line into reckless driving. That's where experience and skill come into play.
The crowd is on the edge of their seats as Simon of the Desert in 5th chases after Stefano Amodei. The delta is just over a second, and you can feel the tension in the air. Simon of the Desert needs to find a way to close the gap.
It's going to be tough for Simon, as Stefano seems to have found his rhythm. But anything can happen in racing, and we've seen Simon pull off some impressive moves before. I'm excited to see if he can do it again.
This is a thrilling battle as Jake Feimster edges closer to Mellero in their fight for P1. It looks like Jake Feimster is making a move. The gap to Mellero is now down to 0.3 seconds.
Exactly what Jake needed. He can't afford to lose any more ground to Mellero.
The race is really heating up. Simon of the Desert is hunting down Stefano Amodei with everything he's got. This is where the skill and precision of the drivers really comes into play. Jake Feimster is chasing Mellero in P1.
With just 0.3 seconds between them, Feimster will need to close the gap to have hopes of a pass.
Simon of the Desert is running 5th and trying to catch Stefano Amodei. It seems like Simon of the Desert is struggling. His last lap time was a bit off the pace of Stefano Amodei.
Hopefully Simon can find some of that missing time and get it back.
The pressure is on as Jake Feimster tries to catch up to Mellero.
The mental game is just as important here. Feimster must keep his cool while putting pressure on Mellero.
The battle for P4 is heating up as Simon of the Desert tries to catch Stefano Amodei in P4.
It's a fine line between pushing the car to its limits and losing control. Simon is really walking that fine line.
Jake Feimster is giving it his all, chasing down Mellero in P1.
Sometimes you have to take risks to win, but pushing the car too hard can be a costly mistake. Feimster needs to be careful not to overdo it.
The pursuit is on. Simon of the Desert is closing the gap on Stefano Amodei, determined to claim P4. Look at that, Jake Feimster is hot on the tail of Mellero.
This is where every inch counts. Jake is pushing hard to close the gap on Mellero. Absolutely, precision and control are key here. Knowing when to push and when to hold back can be the difference between winning and losing.
Pushing too hard can lead to mistakes, and we're seeing that now. That car is really unsettled from being pushed for every last bit of speed.
That driver is really pushing the limits. He's riding the curbs and pushing the car to its limits.
Every move counts now as Stefano Amodei works to reel in Simon of the Desert and overtake for P4.
The gap is 0.4 seconds now. Stefano is going to have to work a bit harder to close that gap with Simon.
Looks like Kevin Lekmanski is really pushing it to the limit. He's taking those curbs aggressively, but that can unsettle the car and cause handling issues.
Indeed, taking too much curb can upset the car's balance, leading to oversteer or understeer. It's all about maintaining that fine line between speed and control.
Kevin Lekmanski has just put in a faster lap than Jake Feimster, so that's going to give him something to worry about.
As long as Lekmanski can maintain that consistency and pace, it will be interesting to see.
The tension is building as Stefano Amodei trails behind Simon of the Desert. The gap is slowly but surely decreasing, and the pressure is mounting. Simon of the Desert is pushing to maintain the lead, while Stefano Amodei is working to close in and challenge for the position.
Absolutely. Stefano in fifth will need to be patient and work carefully to reduce that gap without overdriving it, as he can't afford to take unnecessary risks, and that might lead to an off or damaging their car.
While speeding through Redgate, Jake Feimster is relentlessly pursuing Kevin Lekmanski in a high-stakes battle for position.
That's right, Hal. The pressure can easily get the best of even seasoned drivers. The fans are on the edge of their seats, waiting to see who will come out on top in this epic showdown.
The gap between Jake Feimster and Kevin Lekmanski is growing. It's now up to 0.4 seconds.
This is a frustrating situation for Jake, but he can't give up just yet. He'll need to keep pushing and hope for a mistake from Lekmanski.
These drivers are in a fierce battle, with Stefano Amodei trying to outsmart and outmaneuver Simon of the Desert. The gap is slowly closing, but time is running out. Situations like these often lead to a dramatic finish. The gap between Stefano Amodei and Simon of the Desert is widening. It's now up to 1.0 seconds.
Stefano needs to focus and keep pushing, even when things aren't going his way. If he can close the gap down, he may be able to bring the fight to Simon.
This is where the race gets really interesting. Jake Feimster is closing in on Kevin Lekmanski. The delta between Kevin Lekmanski in second and Mellero remains over a second, but Kevin Lekmanski is not letting up. He's pushing hard and looking for any opportunity to close that gap. There's 15 minutes left in this session to make that happen.
It's moments like these that make motorsports so exciting. We're witnessing a battle of skill and strategy between two great drivers, with Lekmanski in second determined to catch up. But we know Mellero isn't just going to hand it to them on a plate. Lekmanski is going to have to take it. It should be an interesting battle to watch as long as Lekmanski can close that gap.
Good news for Kevin Lekmanski, the gap to Mellero has decreased. It's now down to 0.4 seconds. It's a game of cat and mouse out there, with Jake Feimster trying to find the perfect opportunity to make a move on Kevin Lekmanski. The gap is over a second, but every fraction counts.
Indeed, the anticipation is high as Feimster tries to reel in Kevin. But Kevin is not making it easy, maintaining a consistent pace. Feimster needs to find a little extra speed to bring the fight to Kevin and move up the field.
It's certainly not going to plan for Jake Feimster right now, who is struggling to keep up with Kevin Lekmansky.
He needs to pick up the pace for sure, but that's not always a real possibility.
It looks like Kevin Lekmansky is pushing hard to catch up to Mellero. That's not a small gap, but Kevin Lekmansky has what it takes to challenge for the position. The gap between Kevin Lekmansky and Mellero is getting smaller. Well, it doesn't look like Stefano Amodei is going to be much of a threat to anyone soon, let alone Simon of the Desert.
It's not over until the checkered flag drops, and it's important to maintain concentration until you've made it to the finish line.
Kevin Lekmansky is on a mission, chasing Mellero, who's desperately trying to stay ahead. It looks like we might get a battle between Kevin Lekmansky and Mellero.
This is what racing is all about. Hard-fought battles with as much determination as respect, between friends and enemies alike.
The track conditions are looking good here today. The drivers will be able to push the cars to the limit, and it's going to make for some exciting racing. It's a classic case of chasing down the car ahead for David Zahn, who is currently in P6. But Stefano Amodei is not making it easy, and the gap remains over a second. This will require some expert driving from David Zahn. Breaking update. I don't think that's the fastest way around Donington Park 2018 National.
Whoops, Mellero is going to be kicking themselves.
This is what high-octane racing looks like. Stefano Amodei is breathing down the neck of David Zahn, not giving him any room to relax. Stefano Amodei is trying his best, but can't seem to find the pace to keep up with David Zahn at the moment.
This is not ideal for Stefano, but there's still time to turn this around. He'll need to focus and not let that gap get any bigger.
Oh, this is getting intense. Kevin Lekmansky is just a few car lengths behind Jake Feimster. The race is really heating up. Stefano Amodei is hunting down David Zahn with everything he's got.
Stefano needs to focus to have a chance at getting past David.
Kevin Lekmansky is pushing really hard, but as we know, pushing too hard can lead to other mistakes, like locking up the brakes or missing a shift. These drivers are walking a razor's edge between pushing the limits and making costly errors.
Absolutely. It's all about finding that sweet spot where you're pushing the car to its limits without crossing the line into reckless driving. That's where experience and skill come into play. It's all about finding the perfect opportunity. Lekmansky needs to stay patient and wait for Feimster to make a mistake.
Hold on a moment. A great moment for Stefano Amodei, who has just gained a place and moved up the standings. This is what racing is all about. Two fierce competitors pushing each other to the limit.
When I was racing, we had a saying, if you're not living on the edge, you're taking up too much space. Stefano is definitely living on the edge today.
Wait. Superb driving from David Zahn, who with that overtake has gained a position in the race. It's a close race between David Zahn and Stefano Amodei in fifth.
One wrong move and we could see a spectacular new synchronized pirouette performance by Zahn and Stefano, though I doubt the judges would give them a perfect score.
No room for error here. Stefano Amodei is breathing down the neck of David Zahn, waiting for the perfect chance to make his move.
This is what makes motor racing so exciting. The tension is high and the stakes are even higher. I would not bet on either racer at this point, as it's too close to call.
The crowd is on the edge of their seats as Kevin Lekmansky in second chases after Jake Feimster. The delta is just over a second, and you can feel the tension in the air. Kevin Lekmansky needs to find a way to close the gap.
That's right. Kevin in second knows to push it to the limit to catch up. But Feimster is no slouch, and he's going to be pushing just as hard.
The tension is building as Stefano Amodei trails behind David Zahn. The gap is slowly but surely decreasing, and the pressure is mounting. David Zahn is pushing to maintain the lead, while Stefano Amodei is working to close in and challenge for the position.
It's a nail-biting race for sure, with both drivers showing incredible skill and determination. But Zahn is not going to give up his position easily. This is going to be a battle to the very end, with Stefano in P6 doing everything he can to catch up.
The race is heating up as Kevin Lekmansky in second closes in on Jake Feimster. The gap is just over a second, and I'm sure Kevin Lekmansky is going to do everything possible to try and close the distance. He's not giving up without a fight.
It's going to be tough for Lekmansky, as Feimster seems to have found his rhythm. But anything can happen in racing. and we've seen Lech Mansky pull off some impressive moves before. I'm excited to see if he can do it again.
Hold on a moment. Tough break for Stefano Amodei, who has just lost a position.
That's got to hurt. Stefano will be kicking themselves right now.
3 cars in perfect formation, creating a moving train on the circuit. They're using the slipstream to gain an advantage, but that's not always enough.
Spot on, Hal. This constant back and forth battle is keeping everyone on the edge of their seats. One small mistake could have severe consequences for any of these drivers.
This is where the skill and experience of the drivers really come into play. Kevin Lech Mansky will need to stay focused and keep pushing, even when the gap seems insurmountable. It's not over until the checkered flag drops.
Absolutely. Lech Mansky and second will need to be patient and work carefully to reduce that gap without overdriving it, as he can't afford to take unnecessary risks, and that might lead to an off or damaging their car.
This is what racing is all about, folks. 3 fearless drivers pushing their machines to the absolute limit, inches apart.
I'm on the edge of my seat, Hal. The door-to-door action is exhilarating. The bravery required to go side by side like that is something only the best drivers possess.
It's not looking good for Stefano Amodei, who is still behind David Zahn, and the gap is increasing. Breaking news, folks. Oh dear, Stefano Amodei has had an incident.
Stefano is not going to be happy about that. It's not over yet, but Stefano needs to get a move on if they want to catch up to Zahn.
We got a close battle as Kevin Lech Mansky closes in on Jake Feimster.
This is what separates the good from the great, the ability to stay focused and perform under pressure.
It's not going to plan for Kevin Lech Mansky, who is trailing behind Jake Feimster, and the gap is widening. He may not have an answer for this right now.
This is where the mental toughness of Lech Mansky comes into play. He'll need to stay focused and keep pushing, even when things aren't going his way.
You know, Ada, it's been a relatively quiet race so far.
That's right, Hal. The drivers seem to be pacing themselves and waiting for the right moment to make their move. It's like watching a slow dance.
Hold on a second. An impressive showing from Kevin Lech Mansky, who has gained positions and left Jake Feimster in the dust. It looks like Jake Feimster is all over Kevin Lech Mansky going through Coppice, increasing the pressure and hoping for a mistake.
There is no room for error in this battle.
On the final lap now, and Kevin Lech Mansky might just wrap up this win.
That's an impressive burst of speed. It's all but said and done now.
And that, folks, is how it's done. A solid performance and great win from Kevin Lech Mansky.
You could feel the tension building throughout the race, but Kevin remained focused and in control. That's what separates the winners from the pack.
Some might say that second place is the first loser, but Mellero certainly doesn't see it that way. He put in a phenomenal effort and should be proud of his podium finish.
Intense race, but Mellero held his nerve and earned a great second place.
Well done to Jake Feimster for securing third place on the podium.
Impressive driving to secure that spot.
Coming in 4th, 5th, and 6th we have Simon of the Desert, Narwhal, and David Zahn. In 7th, it's Stefano Amodei.